What's up everyone? Here I am in the Elk Lake trailhead, heading up into the Dix Range in the Adirondacks. I'm camping alone, cooking delicious food on a campfire for the first time ever, and trying to find a view from the top of the Dix Range. When you're in the mountains, things are gonna go wrong and you have to find a way to adapt. Let's get into it. Of all the mountains I've been to, the Adirondacks are definitely my favorite. Perfect mix of pine and birch, which you all know I love. Hello, little buddy. Something else I love about the Adirondacks is they have red squirrels, unlike the gray squirrels you get in most of New York, so can't believe I saw one so soon. So the first mistake, I'm sure I'll have made others, but the first mistake I made on this trip was I forgot my fleece at home. So I'm hoping to do a sunrise hike tomorrow up Dix Mountain, show you all the view from there, but we'll see how cold it is. The camera makes it look much brighter than it actually is, but you can at least tell where the path is going still. So in the Adirondacks, you're supposed to camp 150 feet away from the trail or water. So I'm just gonna head up a little bit, try to find a clear spot, set up camp, and go from there. So it's definitely not ideal, but I think this is gonna be the spot. Because the main thing you wanna check for is no dead trees or branches that might fall on you. You also don't want it to be in a pitted area, so it's a little bit in the runoff area, but there's a lot more like water channels around it. And most importantly, it's getting dark, so I need to set up somewhere. So I definitely didn't bring any lights with me, rookie mistake. But first thing I'm gonna do, get some water, and then I'm going to start a fire, let that burn down to the coals, and while I'm doing that, I'm gonna set up my tent. I use a Sawyer squeeze water bag. The Sawyer is super easy to use. You just squeeze it through the filter into the, I use the platypus over here and also my Nalgene. The main thing is during winter, got to keep the filter from freezing, otherwise it's gonna break. So you just tie the little Sawyer bit into the nozzle, and then when you squeeze it, the water comes out. Thank goodness for reflective gear. Otherwise, I never would have found my spot. Well, I would have found it eventually, but it would have taken a while. Well, folks, after all of that, my inReach can't get signal under the trees. So I have to head back down to find an open campsite back by the main trail. So I'm gonna be wandering around in the dark, but my wife deserves to know that I'm okay and she can sleep peacefully. So I'm gonna get back to her. It's like 9:45 right now. So not exactly what I had hoped to be doing right now, but the name of the game in the outdoors is adapting. Feels a little Blair Witchy out here, but you know, it's what it is. I also just realized I never packed my lunch for tomorrow. That's a bummer. Thankfully the Garmin just found Sky somewhere, so the message sent. Start a YouTube, they said. It'll be fun, they said. And that is how you get to crossing 2 log bridges in the middle of the night. And there's the sign for the campsite. Hopefully there's no one there. All right, well, that is gonna be home for the night, so let's get it set up. We're all set. Let's see if the steak is any good. The good news is my plan to basically wrap the steak in ice and then wrap it in Ziplocs with a towel to absorb the moisture. It worked, but I have no idea if the steak is still healthy to eat. It looks okay, and the water surrounding it is still cold, and it smelled okay. So I'm gonna try to eat it, and hopefully not die of food poisoning. So this is the perfect example of wood that you don't really want to use for a fire unless you have to. You want something that's gonna snap pretty easily. This still has a lot of give to it, which means it probably is still green or may have some water in it. You want to avoid the stuff that's been on the ground because that'll be collecting moisture. It'll still burn probably, but it's gonna be, you know, not great. This, on the other hand, is a dead pine tree, and those snap immediately, so you can see how dry that is. Now, if you really know your stuff, you can just use the birch bark, but I have this little pine sap thing that is gonna help start the fire and keep it going. Well, I'm definitely cheating, but it worked. Now, one pro tip I've heard is to not put more on the fire until the flames reach above the last layer you put on. Otherwise, you might smother it. You always want to put your fire starting stuff away as soon as you finish making it because you don't want to lose it. Thankfully, it's not windy, so there's not really any danger of sparks flying around. That would make it a lot more difficult. I think it's time to start cooking the potatoes. I just have basically a mix of olive oil and rosemary, Italian seasoning, garlic powder, I forget what else. So I'm gonna rub that on them, put them in the foil, and put them by the fire. I got a steak and onion, and I'm gonna put the seasoning back on it. Well, I managed to bollocks that up. So we're gonna try the old outdoor boys trick and just cook it straight on the coals, see how it works. For my first steak ever cooked on a fire, and I literally had to cook it on the fire, I will take it. So the potatoes, basically kind of done. Edible, at least these ones, the rest weren't. So I definitely had to put them in for more time than I thought. But, you know, lessons learned. At the end of the day, it doesn't get much better. Well, you know, except for food prepared by people who know what they're doing. That was not what I expected at all. It's like 1 a.m. and I am exhausted and supposed to wake up in like 2 to 3 hours to go on this sunrise hike. It's morning. Yeah, it's 3:45, so hopefully this is enough time. Guess we'll find out. Well, through a combination of late start and poor planning, or poor packing, I should say, I don't know if I'll be able to make it to the top in time. There's Dix Pond. Well, the sun is up, and I did not make it to the top, or anywhere close to it yet. So it'll be a early morning hike. These little life straws are so nice to have. Hello, little guy. Well, that's the Adirondacks. Just roots and uphill all the way. The scent of birch and pine and fir is balm for the soul. Little early morning fog. The nice part about topographical maps is you can tell how far you've climbed. The bad part about topographical maps is you can tell how far you have to climb. And I have about 1,000 feet left. Oh, I hate going uphill. Probably should have picked a different passion. Found a little sheltered spot out of the wind. So I'm gonna make some breakfast. All right, let's get this thing cracking. One of my favorite little gadgets I've got. You just put the coffee in the top. It's just a mesh filter. Super lightweight, makes a great cup. I got my eggs scrambled and I got my coffee. So I'm ready to dig in. Oh man, I am so ready for this. Oh, I knew that. That's really tasty. God bless all that cholesterol. Oh. Breakfast is over, time to get on with it. One of the crazy things about the Adirondacks is just how big it is. Millions and millions of acres. It's bigger than Yellowstone, Yosemite, and I think Glacier combined, which is mind-blowing. Oh yeah, look at that view, let's go! When it comes to mountains and views, sometimes you're the hammer, sometimes you're the nail. Can't say I'm looking forward to doing this in winter when it's covered in snow and ice. Up at the top of the high peaks, you need to be careful to stay on the trail because a lot of these plants are very fragile, take a long time to grow. Gotta love these quiet ridge walks. Well, this is the summit of Dix Peak, and yeah. Oh yeah, just a perfect way to spend a Saturday. Getting punched in the face by pine trees. This is peak number 2 of the day, Hough Peak. No view to speak of, unfortunately, but I'm sure on a good day, it would be gorgeous. This is my favorite part of the Adirondacks, the mossy woods. I really hate going downhill and then having to go uphill again. It's not even raining out, but it's so slippery. Definitely something to watch out for on this trail. And realistically, most of the trails I've been on in the Adirondacks. Although there's nothing to see today, there's a lot of overlooks that I'm sure have great views on nice days. It's so cool to see the color variation between the new growth and the old. Well, this is the summit of South Dix. No real view to be had even on a good day. Okay, I was wrong. There is a view from South Dix just a little bit past the peak. Cairns always looks so ghostly, especially in settings like this. On rocky mountain tops, you'll see these piles of stones, and they're called cairns, and they're used to mark the trail. The nice thing about them is they can be seen even in snow or ice, so they're extra valuable for winter. A group just walking by was surprised and very concerned that I'm planning to go down the Macomb slide. So I may turn back from that. And the lady was looking at my Garmin and was like, oh, I'm glad you have that. So it's supposed to be steep and it's a lot of loose rocks, but all right, folks, discretion is the better part of valor. So I think I'm just gonna go down Lillian Brook Trail rather than trying to do the Macombs to slide. A couple reasons for that. One, someone's worried I'm gonna need this. Maybe not a good sign. Also, I'm running on very little sleep and my muscles are pretty sore and tired, and I don't want to do a treacherous descent in that shape. But also, I want to go home and see my wife and eat a pizza. So I'm gonna go do that. I am gonna miss this place. It's my favorite woods in the world, at least of the ones I've been to. I'm sure there are other great ones, but this one's special. I'm excited to see what this trail looks like in the daytime. It's a bit of a half introduction last night, so it'll be nice to see it in full. The trail is definitely easier to follow in the daytime, I'll say that much. So much of the trail is just clambering over stuff like that. This portion of the trail is quite lovely. Just wide open woods, nicely laid out path. But the other portion, not so much. I just realized I've never seen this spot in the daytime. But it's a nice little one. Especially with the creek right there. Ah yes, the Adirondack mud pits. For yesterday's steak, I had just basically wrapped it in ice cubes for the drive up, and then I was gonna rely on that to refrigerate it. And I kept smelling what smelled like rotten steak, and I was like, oh my God, like how is this gonna work? Later in the night, turns out that smell was my feet, which was just, ugh, embarrassing. But I found it very funny. Moral of the story for this trip was things go wrong. You get into camp late and then you realize you have to move. Your steak falls in the fire. The potatoes don't cook properly. You wake up after 2 hours to go for a sunrise hike that did not actually turn into a sunrise hike. It was more of an early morning hike by the time I got up there. And yet, even with no views, cold wind, all that, it's still a great day to be outside. This place is incredible. I love it here. And I just think that's the beauty of nature and being outdoors. So thanks for following along. Catch you next time.